Yeah, my name is Andy Leidolf. I am the Honors Program Coordinator. And in that role, I'm also a National Fellowship Advisor, which means that our office advises students who are interested in applying to a national or prestige fellowship opportunity. And we do that regardless of whether they are in the honors program or not. There is one other office on campus that does that, and that is primarily for international opportunities like Fulbright or Bourne or Gilman. That's the Office of Global Engagement. But any other opportunity, anything that's national in scope, and one international, one Marshall honors does the advising for. And if that's something that you're interested in, you'd likely come talk to me first. What we find is that most institutions will have strengths about what they advise for, and oftentimes that's because it's a match for the student demographics. And so in our case, we have a lot of students who are interested in STEM, and so Goldwater is a big one for us. We have a lot of students who are interested in public service and possible employment with government down the road. And so we see a lot of students who are interested in the Truman Scholarship. And we also have a strong natural resources program. A lot of the students there are interested in environmental issues. So we usually get quite a few applicants for the UDOL scholarship, which in addition to environmental issues also deals with Native American issues. Right. I think the first thing a student can do is to just learn as much as they can about that particular opportunity, if it is a particular opportunity that they're interested in. They should probably look at the timeline. I think one thing that's important about a lot of these is that they can have fairly long timelines. And that means basically working back from the application deadline. Oftentimes, in order for a student to develop a competitive application, we're going to need anywhere from 6 to 9, and in some cases, even 12 months of working with that student. And part of that is because some of these opportunities require either an institutional endorsement or an institutional nomination. So and again, that's something a student can sort of find out about as they learn about the opportunity. Is this something that I can just apply for myself? Or is this something where I actually have to be nominated by my university, in which case it becomes a very different and usually a longer process for that to occur. So I think that's something students can do is learn about the opportunity, look at the timeline, make sure that, that you're at a good place where that timeline is still realistic for you. I think another thing a student can do is do a self-assessment. Make sure that you're eligible. Each of these opportunities has eligibility requirements. Sometimes it has to do with your class standing. So like, are you a junior or you're a sophomore, that sort of thing. Some of these opportunities you're only allowed to apply for once, but you may have a larger time window. So you need to ask yourself, is right now the right time for that? Am I competitive right now? Or is this maybe something I'd want to wait? And then think about fit too. I think that should be part of your self-assessment. Like if a scholarship opportunity says, this is for people who have a deep and enduring commitment to public service, then you need to sort of have an honest sort of look at yourself and say, is that truly something that I am committed to? Because that's going to come out in the application process. It's not something you can fake. I think the last thing that you might want to do before you come talk to us is identify a faculty mentor that you think might be able to work with you on that, right? So for Truman, for example, you know, we have Truman scholars. We have faculty and staff on campus who are former Truman scholars. And chances are, if you're a candidate for that and you encounter one of those folks, at some point they might even tap on your shoulder and say, hey, I think you might be good for this. But even if that's not the case, you know, do your homework, you know, reach out to faculty that you work with that, that know you and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you have any advice? Do you maybe know somebody that I could talk to that would know more about this? Oftentimes when the student comes to us and they already have a mentor identified, maybe you've already given thought to who might be writing letters of recommendation for you. It just makes the process a lot easier on our end. Now, it's something we can also help you with, but it just makes, you know, your start into all this just a lot easier and a lot smoother. You would go to our website. There is a page for national scholarships. And on that page, you'll be able to find timelines, application deadlines, but also what our internal timelines are to approach us about an opportunity like that. You'll also find what we call an intake form. And that's basically where you go in and you fill out a web form, give us a little bit of information about yourself, and that then generates an email to us that tells us, okay, here's a student who has an interest in this. You can specify if you already have that, specific opportunities that you're interested in. We might ask you to give us a little bit of personal information about, like, you know, where are you in your school and how can we contact you. Once you send that form to us, we'll set up an appointment with you. So when you hear from us, with probably from our program assistant, looking to schedule you for an appointment to probably meet with me, would be the first meeting. And during that meeting then, so we'd set that up whenever it's convenient. During that meeting then, we would try to have a conversation with you and ask you to expand a little bit further on what your goals are, why you think you're a good fit for this. We might sort of explore that a little bit together. We might try to give you a little bit of feedback. We'll be able to answer any kind of questions. We'll look at sort of what timelines look like. We'll explore whether you have a faculty mentor that can work with you on this, whether you already have some recommenders that might be able to write strong letters of recommendation. And ultimately, coming out of that initial meeting is a determination on our part whether this is something that we're going to work with you on. And that doesn't mean, the bar for that is particularly high. It's just we want to make sure that we're not wasting your time and also not our own time. What our role in that process is basically we're not going to do the work for you. So this is primarily going to be on you working with a faculty mentor. We're not going to work with students who we don't think are a very good match for the program that they're trying to apply for. And we're also not going to run interference either on campus or with the national organization that's taking your application if you miss deadlines or, if you're not sort of, on task with things. What we will do is provide all the information, all the guidance, all the support. We'll try to help broker connections with faculty that we feel may be helpful in your effort if you don't already have those identified. We'll run the application through the process, so that means you don't have to worry about sort of the logistics of the application, like the application portal and making sure the application is formatted correctly and that timelines are being met. Those are all the things that we'll take off your plate. And if there is an institutional endorsement required, which oftentimes could be a letter from our program director or a letter from the university president, we'll take care of all of that. So you don't have to reach out to those people. We'll handle all that internally. And we'll make sure that when it's all said and done, your application gets submitted on time. It's compliant with all the specifications of the organization. It is complete. And if following up on that, let's say your application makes it, say, through the first round, and oftentimes there'll be an interview that oftentimes takes place off campus at a location somewhere in the country. We can even provide some limited financial support for travel involved in that. So that's sort of like what our role looks like. It is. Applying for one of these opportunities requires a lot of time, and it requires a lot of emotional and physical energy. Let's be honest. I think you have to be motivated. You have to be passionate about it. You have to really want this. And like I said, you have to be a good fit. And so what I tell students is, first of all, do it. I think every student should do this. This is something that is a great opportunity. It's a great experience to go through. So do it. Do it right. Make sure it's the right fit. Make sure you put your energy and your resources where they matter the most. And then do it for the right reason. And that kind of gets a little bit at this idea that there's a really, really good chance, even though you're going to put your best application together, you're going to have all the support and it's a great fit, you're not going to get it because these are very, very, very competitive. And so doing it for the right reason means you need to think about, why am I putting myself through this? What are my motivations? What are my goals that I hope to achieve out of this that have nothing to do with winning? That are all just about the process and about the experience and the maturity and the feedback that I can gain as part of this process. And I think for me, probably the one thing that a national scholarship application forces you to do is to spend considerable time thinking about who you are, where you've been, where it is you're going, and to be able to craft a compelling and convincing narrative that you can deliver in writing or in an oral. Some of these opportunities might require you to do a video, or even face to face in a mock, not in a mock, but in an interview where you're sitting together with a panel and are being asked very probing questions. To be able to have a clear sense of who you are and to be able to articulate that in a compelling way to someone else, I think is something that you'll have to do again and again, regardless of what your next step in your career is going to be once you're done here at USU. Whether you're going for that internship or that entry-level job, or whether you're going to go on to graduate school or do volunteer service or a Peace Corps or whatever it may be, at some point, somebody's going to want to know from you, why are you doing this? Why do you want me to give you this opportunity? And you're going to have to be able to explain how that fits into your sense of who you are, where you've been and where you're going. And going through an application process like that forces you to do that in a really, really compelling way. I mean, the peaks are the work with the students. Like we just worked with a Truman candidate, and it was just an amazing. She was not an honor student, so she had not been somebody that I'd had a chance to interact with, but she was just an absolute amazing human being. I learned so much from her. It was just a really fun and productive process for everybody involved. Everything came together beautifully. She made finalists. We got her all ready for the interview. I mean, the Valley was, she ended up not getting it, and so that was obviously disappointing. And it was sort of like, uh, but I mean, it's just sort of fun to see somebody go through that experience and to just know that you're talking to somebody who's going to be successful at whatever it is that they choose to do, regardless, because that's sort of the relationship that you establish with a student working with them on a project like this. By the time you're done, I mean, you're their biggest advocate, you're their biggest cheerleader. You know they're going to be successful at whatever they put their mind to. And yeah, the Truman would have been the cherry on the cake, but it just, didn't happen. So.